And we are live YouTube. Now I'm just going to fire this up for Twitter, and there we go. We're looking good shape. There we go. Thank you everyone for joining me. Let me just move this a little bit here. Pardon me, do a little bit of housekeeping, move things around, balancing this on. I hope everyone likes these simulcasts we've got going. Welcome everyone. Let's fire this up. Second week, full week of the month of April, as we started off with quite a wild opening start to the quarter. It really was something, but thank you very much for joining us. As always, it is a pleasure. I really do appreciate your time and support here. Remember, my efforts here are to give back to the community. Okay. Welcome everyone. Crypto Talk live from beautiful, sunny London, England. Yes, sunny London, England. Something I'm emphasizing here is since we've been here, that beautiful bride and I have been here. My beautiful bride and I have been here for approximately not quite 4 months here, not quite 4 months, and we'll be just departing shortly. But ever since USAID ended, the chemtrails are gone, and the skies are extremely sunny every day and each day in London, England. It is rather remarkable. It's not hot or anything like that, but the weather is beautiful. It's a beautiful spring. So as soon as that nonsense of USAID stopped ruining the skies, the environment, I guess you would say, I'm not sure how you'd phrase that. Don't bother. Don't get upset how I phrased it. For the people of London, England, the weather's been beautiful. Also, by the way, for everyone who reads that nonsense on Twitter like it's some big giant race war, if it's like the 1980s in Colors, the movie Colors, for them, some of you old enough to remember, and think London is such a horrible town. All of our cities have difficult areas. We all know that. I don't need to name them. It's not appropriate, not polite, and I like decorum and gentlemanly conduct. We all have less desirable areas. Apparently, there are some in London. There must be. I see them on Twitter, all these rough places. I don't see any of them here. I see nothing. I see zero problems. Not even a quarter of what we have in what many consider to be our nice areas. Okay, there is no stench of constant cannabis here. Not. There's no wide open drug dealing. There's no heroin. No one bent over from heroin. There's no fentanyl problems, and there's no blow by blow. No. Might a few guys having a few pints or two after a local or before a football match, but it's really quite so. Again, that's my tourism spot for the day. Come to London if you're holding meetings. And by the way, if you're going to hold a business meeting for international travel, certainly don't do it stateside now, unfortunately. Do it in London where everyone is comfortable. We'll be here for a little while longer, but not that much. And then my beautiful bride and I are heading off to more than likely the Middle East. More than likely. And I do emphasize, pardon me as I recapture my screen here, I do emphasize my beautiful bride as I kick the if you get to know me, you're going to hear me reference that quite a bit. My beautiful bride. She'll always be my bride. And when you see these markets turmoil like this is, as you should each and every day, remember the market is not life. Okay? It's not. It's not. The market is not, it's just a conduit. Investing is a conduit for you to live the life that you want to. I can take it, I can leave it. I like making money from it, but other than that, this is not my life. So again, gentlemen, and for that matter, ladies listening, never miss a day to tell those most important in your life if they are such. Time is fleeting, and that's why my Nari is forever my bride. So kicking off this week, obviously, the nonsense that we're dealing with is the very adolescent, ill-informed, ill-conceived tariff approaches. It did exactly what we were concerned with, without question, did exactly. And it was very deeply problematic for the market. And we saw this as a risk coming. Certainly when we went in before the most recent Fed meeting, we thought, we were on edge on what Chair Powell would comment. Chair Powell really gave us, I think, probably the most professional speech recently of his career. He was a banker. He was a little bit quiet, modestly dovish at the time, but not overly. And he showed a lot of composure. He avoided the political nonsense that is a hallmark of this era. Always politics, always drama here. And he gave us a good lead up, a good send off, let's say, after a meeting. And I was saying, if the Oval Office says nothing, the S&P, we will drift up. If we can be really quiet, we'll say no, we will drift up and there'll be no turmoil. We were looking at a nice quarter end, comfortable quarter end. My opinion, I would have seen. I was saying at that time, I believe I can see 5,800 to 6,000 on the S&P as it closed at the quarter end. I was concerned about the second quarter. We all know in the second week we'd be susceptible. After that window dressing comes a little bit of that reversal as a little more capital pullback. All very within control. Well, that all got thrown out the proverbial window with the endless tariff, and have we hated everyone enough in the world right now? It seems that way. And certainly that sent this market in turmoil. And we finished off this week with the two most destructive days in equity market history as per defined by capital, with I believe it was the final total was 6.6 trillion lost on the market. It was vicious, it was ugly, it was selling into the wind, selling into lackable liquidity, and it was hitting the lows and the lows and constantly, and it was not looking good. Now, here for crypto, there was one bright shining element that you could say at that time. You were excited if you're a crypto enthusiast, an investor at that time, because you saw this and you said, well, hold on a second, NASDAQ is selling off, but what's not happening here? Bitcoin isn't selling off. That was the one plus that you have of this sell-off. It was very, very solid, and it looked good. It certainly had some very good signs to it. I certainly looked at it as extremely favorable. But was it perfect? No, it wasn't perfect, and it certainly gave a more positive outlook going into the weekend, but there was a lot to be decided. Had yet to confirm that it was heading northbound. As I stated, I still believe my suggestions of the turn on Chair Powell's events was premature, or at least I suspected they were premature. Hope is not a strategy. You know all that standard phrase. I think I'll give that one to Mark Yetzko of Morgan Creek Digital Capital. Hope isn't a strategy. And I go back to my January 25th assertion when Bitcoin was 106,500 approximately, that it was pulling back most likely to 75,000 with a possible, not guaranteed, but a possible pullback to maybe as low as 70,000. My numbers, my technical numbers based upon December, and my apologies, I didn't publicly state anything on Twitter before that, January 25th, simply because one reason. Twitter's just nonsense mostly. I know I'm streaming this here, but no one listens to an old man who talks about risk management. So I didn't say anything at that time, but I did post it on January 25th when it was 106,500, and people must have thought I was absolutely crazy, that it was heading more southbound. And sure enough, it did, 75,000. So again, January 25th, 75,000 to a lesser probability of 70,000. Based upon my December numbers, technically a 36% retracement pushes us into approximately 69,000, 75,000. We looked very good on Friday as it resisted that extraordinary sell-off in NASDAQ. Again, these are the two worst days in equity market history as judged by capital destruction, 6.6 trillion. So we held, modestly held, but that wasn't the turn. The turn was still to come, and I repeated this over the weekend. Keep looking for that 75,000, and we got it. We tailed it today. So we've hit that 75,000, and over the last hour, or certainly over the last 24 hours, it's still the destruction, but we're starting to get some tailwinds. Is this the turn? Only you can decide that. Only you can decide. I can't go out and tell you to make an investment. But in the last hour, we have Bitcoin comfortable now. After we're tagging our 75,000, we're sitting at 77,200. It's up marginally 1%. And it is at basically, with the exception of Tron, TRX, the bottom of my grouping of 10 altcoins and plus Ethereum. No pun intended there. But as I said today, the sad part about Ethereum, as it keeps retracing, Ethereum may be, that blockchain in which so much of decentralized finance runs on, but it operates as efficiently at this price as it would have, 6 months ago or whatever it might be. In other words, it still operates with the same levels of efficiency. However, going into it, after Bitcoin touched that figure, that base, the whole sector started to lit up. And this is what I anticipate. Is it too early to call this absolutely the turn? Certainly, we have a lot of things to shake out here, and politics are getting in the way. But Bitcoin, right in the last hour, is at the base. Again, as I said, with less of Tron, with the exception of Tron, of the lowest of it. Al goes up 1.38. Hedera, still one of my top three favorites. Hedera up 2.3. Cardano up 1.9. Ethereum up 2.5. XRP up 2.6. Aave, which is 2 and 3 in my list with next to Hedera, up 2.6. Avalanche AVAX up 2.7. Ondo, Digita, Wall Street 2.0. Wall Street 2.0 up 2.9, Sol up 2.9, and Sui up 3.6. I forget to mention the top of my altcoin list by far. You don't own enough. Link is up 2.9. So this is what it's starting to show us signs of. The turn is happening. We're going to need some confirmation. There's a long way off before confirmation. 75,000. Remember, my prediction was in January 25th. We are going to touch down to 75. We did that today. We got to see this hold. We want to see a progression. And after we have a week with a close of 105,000, I believe this will treble within that fiscal year. This is a long way off, but mark your calendars. April 7th, we hit the base. Okay? Now we got to look at this and we start to put in, doing some of our math here, get your slide rules out. We'll look at this and where we see this advancing to. But I'm looking at this to treble within the fiscal year after we have confirmation. 105,000 on the weekly close is that. Is this going to happen quickly? No, I don't believe so. As I expressed to some investors earlier today, the problem is don't try to with politicians. Remember, it's not centralized finance, it's decentralized. The crypto capital is everywhere, not one country. Don't attempt to centralize, pardon me. I know that sounds awkward. It's the best term I can figure out. Decentralized finance. It's everywhere. It's not just simply the domicility of one country, and or for that matter, one language per se. So we're looking at some very positive things here. Now, if you're entering the sector today, game it. Meaning, other than your altcoins that are very more challenging to hedge, other than your altcoin, game this. I suggest you look at entering slowly, just slowly. Just ease into these positions and think of IBET is the best example. There's certainly others that are better. I would look at on ETFs, but it's a good example for us to consider this. Look at IBET, your pricing on IBET, looking at that and writing covered calls on it. You own the name. Each 100 shares, each block, each board lot, board lot. I don't know what happened there. Each board lot really represents approximately speaking, 1/18th, 1/20th, for lack of better numbers, of full Bitcoin. So look at it in that regards and piece your positions together. You can think of it as sats if you like, but write an at the money call, right? And be prepared as we go through the week on rolling it. That's just something we have to look at. Now, equity markets are going to have an uncomfortable opening again. Not nearly as bad as futures indicated, but it's not pleasant. Futures are indicating right now an implied opening of NASDAQ off around 1,570 points, S&P off 125. It's not pleasant. It's going to be another ugly session and from equity markets. So we're going to watch how Bitcoin responds to that. Gold is certainly, I would say, somewhat stealing the show. Still, up $9.90 or 80 cents on futures Silver up nearly $1.99.5. Again, China was closed on Friday, so this is a little bit of catch up, and certainly they're going to look to accumulate. But the markets are not pleasant, so we're going to watch if Bitcoin still, decouples from its Nasdaq move. So again, let's look at your positions if you want to, and only if you want to, with IBIT. We're looking at an uncomfortable, again, opening on this. It wasn't pleasant. This after hours trading, pre-market, we're looking at this opening up around 8.25%, 43.77. So one should be looking at, in my opinion, something with a little downside coverage, i.e., writing a 42.5 or a $43 call against in an equal, just simple covered calls. But we can talk more of that later tomorrow. If you have particular questions, I urge you all, post your questions on YouTube or Twitter, and I'll be pleased to answer them. There's only one way that I can answer questions and help you is if you ask questions, okay? So I hope that makes sense for today. I hope that helps, and as always, it really is a pleasure to have you here. So that's about where we have it. Remember, calm today. This market is another puke stain of a market. This is everything that we predicted. We've been suggesting this market's heading to 4,800 to 5,000 for quite some time. It is certainly susceptible to significantly lower. We do expect a little bit of a rebound from this 4,800 to 5,000, but nothing here is going by common analysis. This is a self-inflicted wound, the tariff policies, so it's outside the norm of common analysis, and so things can get much uglier and much more protracted, but we'll talk about that more tomorrow. Okay, so if you have questions regarding IBIT and how to use those covered calls, just let me know. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you all tomorrow at the same time, 0900 2025. I want to remind you, well, two things. Remember today, calm. Nothing of merit comes from panic. Be the hunter, not the hunted. The money is made on the buy side. Always remember that. Okay. 2025. I'm John Davies. Thank you very much for joining for Crypto Talk from beautiful, sunny London, England. And we'll be back tomorrow. And just a reminder, be the hunter, not the hunted. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.